Tudo bem? Assalamu alaikum. Hope you enjoy your meal. Thank you for the organizer for that such a beautiful fish and camel meat. It was very good. Thank you very much. And let's start our second part of the day. And I'm so pleased and honored to call a gentleman that I met a few minutes ago. 20 years in South Florida. Is that right? California. All right. He's from Iraq. And it's a pleasure having him here because he's the chairman of this session. We're talking about socioeconomic and production system. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Wael Hamas.
What a day. I'm so happy and proud and glad to be among you and met large number of you, and I'm anxious to meet the rest of you, and hopefully I will learn from you. I'm not the presenter. I'm supposed to be the chair of this session, and it happened that I am presenting my best friend, Dr. Rifat Al-Jassim. Am I okay? Thank you, sir. So I'm not going to tell you when we met and became friends because you will not ever believe it, and it will expose my age. And I know almost all his career. Dr. Rifat Al-Jassim, like, known for his contribution when he was in Iraq. I followed him to Jordan and worked in Jordan University of Science and Technology for several years with him. I was in the vet school. I'm a veterinarian, and he was in the agriculture, and we collaborated together. He did a lot of work on different aspects to promote camel, from the nutrition to microbiome in the rumen. And I'm really looking forward to see and hear him talking about the potential opportunities for camel development in southern Morocco. Dr. Rifat Al-Jassim, you have 25 minutes, sir, and 5 minutes of questions.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and wake up after this heavy meal. They say when you have a heavy meal, all the blood goes to the stomach to deal with the consequences. And I mean, camel meat is not an exception. So half asleep now. Thank you very much, Professor Wael, my dear friend. And I'll talk about the potential opportunities for the development of a profitable and sustainable camel industry. So what's the point of keeping camels if you don't get a profit from them? I know they have cultural values. I know they are sentimental animals. I know all these things, but in the long run, you need to get a profit from them. So we'll talk about that. And the southern part of Morocco is a potential region for the development of a profitable camel industry. So for that, you require knowledge of the camel population and distribution, because that is something you start with. You know how many camels you have, you know the structure of the herd, and you know where they are distributed. And you need to know the biological constraints and genetic potentials of the animal. So here comes the biology and the genetics. And I always say to my students that you need to develop a good understanding of the biological system you're dealing with in order to be able to work with that biological system and achieve something. Then, of course, animals got to eat, so you need to look at the feed resources, available services, especially veterinarians and nutrition and others. Then you need, if you wanna maintain the population of camels, you need to know the sustainable harvest rate. So how many camels do you take every year from the herd and sell or kill or do whatever you do with them? And of course, at the end, you need investment. Without investment, you cannot make development. So that's, so the aim of all the work is to transform the current camel industry into a profitable and sustainable one. Starting point, you need to develop a simple concept. This could be a national program, could be an educational, institutional program, could be cooperatives that joins together, but you need to develop a concept. And where I'm coming from to this point is from the success stories in the Australian industries, the sheep industry and the beef cattle industry. We're not talking about the camel industry there because it's a different one. So you need to develop a clear and simple concept. And we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So I give you an example. This is the Sheep CRC, the Sheep Cooperative Research Council. And the achievement they had, then we can modify that, adapt it to camels. So understanding consumer preference, linking the sheep industry with the consumers, that same can be applied to camels. And delivering the technological advances, that's of course when you identify the challenges and put it in a priorities order, then you look at what are the technological advances that we have to deal with these challenges. So matching your capabilities with these challenges and delivering, that's for the sheep, production of wool, meat, product that consistently surpassed these specifications. So this is from a recent book published by my friend, Professor James Rowe. He was my boss when I worked at the University of New England. And this is the sheep CRC. I give you a simple piece of information. Sheep population in Australia was reduced from 170 millions in the 80s, and Tumanology would remember that, 170 and a little bit above million to less than 70 million now. But the productivity of meat increased. The reduction was due to change in wool prices. wool prices dropped down and it was no longer attractive. They were changing from wool to meat, and that's what happened. The same principles we can apply to camels or other industries. So what we have developed for camel concept got to be simple and doable, deliverable. So understanding market demand and delivering the technological advances, the same principles, to enable farmers, we targeting the farmers and the industry to profit from delivering high quality meat and milk. So once again, we looking at what are the challenges in the industry and the technological advances. Two types of technological advances. Technological advances, you can have a technology transfer, an existing knowledge, you just apply it, or sometimes you don't have the knowledge or the complete package, so you develop technology. So either technology transfer or development of technology. So the purpose is raising camels for a profit. The camels industry will develop and progress when farmers start to see $1 coming from it. They cannot continue to keep it as such, just an animals for luxury. So you need to identify the key challenges that the producers face and set the priority and match it with our capabilities. So I looked at it, and from previous experience, working with the cassava over here, they raised the issue of nutrition. We know that the fertility of the camel is low. I'm not getting into this because we have experts going to talk about this. Lulu Skidmore and Nasser Wani, they're going to talk about this. So, but the fertility and the health of the animal, we have health experts as well going to talk about it. But these are the priorities. Nutrition affect health, nutrition affect fertility, health affect fertility. So we ask ourselves the question, do we have the technological advances to provide solutions? We always ask ourselves these questions. If we have, that's half of the job is done. If we don't have, how do we develop? So our approach should be delivering technical advances, education and training. If you want to sustain the services, sustain the development, you need to qualify, to prepare leaders in the field. It is so important. Leaders in the field, they should be equipped with the know-how, with the vision, and with the will to make changes. You need leaders in the field. So you train and integrate components to use new technologicals effectively. So when you talk about artificial insemination, you need trained people to do it. When you talk about diet formulation, you need trained people to do it. Okay, so this is important. And improve market information. I have also experienced from the region that there has been attempts to develop industry over here, especially the milk. They've done all the work, they've done the collection, but they didn't do the market study correctly. And like they pasteurized milk and brought it to Laayoune, and nobody buying it. As they say in Egypt, ما تروحش تبيع المية في حارة السقايين. So they're not interested, they don't buy. So you're looking at alternative things, increase the shelf life, you produce powder, do this, do that. So you need to do a good market study. And eliminating inconsistency of products and supply. If you want to go and buy milk today, next week should have the same quality. Not this week high fat, this week low fat, this week is good, bad, all the consistency in the product, the same taste, the same flavor, the same. So there has been, looking at the biological system we're dealing with, which is the camel itself, there has been a talk in Australia about the environmental impact of feral animals. Feral animals, there are so many in Australia, at least 30 introduced animals. They are domesticated, but they bring them and release them, and they become feral. So they cause erosion, they spread weeds, and they compete for water and pasture with native animals and livestock. This is an Australian scenario. I don't want you to hang into it because animals over here are more controlled and there are different ways of looking and dealing with them. So our answer is the camel, with regard to impact on the soil, is a friendly animal. If you compare the camel with a cow, the same body weight, the impact on the topsoil, which is important, and that could lead into erosion, the impact, the camel 2.9 Newton over square centimeter, compared with 8.86 Newton over square centimeter for cattle. So it's a big difference. The camel is a friendly animal on the environment. Also, we look at the feeding behavior of the animal. Feeding behavior, cattle, their heads are down. They eat, they pasture, they grazers. Camels are browsers, so they eat at the top. And there is benefit in doing that because they maintain a relatively constant diet. There is always fresh leaves and the fresh parts of the plants that contains high level of water and high level of nutrients, so they maintain the consistency of supply of nutrients. And the control of weeds, in Australia, for example, we spend about $4 billion every year to control the weeds. You see those trees, the prickly acacia, they're very nasty, but camels can control them. Camels can control them. You look over this, you look at these, they are almost gone. Repeatedly, the camels, they eat it and they kill it. So the camels are doing a wonderful job. And when they eat the lush part over here, the nutritious part, they're gaining in nutrients. And when you look at the pasture, and this is Mitchell grass, the protein content of the pasture, when it is mature, it is very low, 2.9% crude protein. And camels, they won't touch it. Camels, they nibble. While cattle, they have only this feed to eat from. So to look at the cattle, it takes them about 4 years on that pasture to reach slaughter weight, which is 580 kilograms. So in wet season, they grow, they lose weight in a dry season, they grow in wet season, dry season, so it takes them about 4 years to reach a slaughter weight. Because of the feeding behavior of the camel, you can see them. They grow well, and the body condition is excellent. And also looking at the competition, between cattle and camels, there is very little competition because they choose different types of feed. And what other benefits that the camels have? The camels, we demonstrated that the camels have lower metabolizable energy requirement for maintenance. And I think this is an important point. It has to be incorporated into any breeding program, because you want to breed and select for heavy animals. It means you require more feed to maintain the body weight. Look at this. If you have 500 kilogram cow or 500 kilogram camel, the cow requires about 60 megajoule, while the camel requires 48 megajoule to maintain body weight. So there is a big benefit with regard to metabolizable energy requirement. When we come into milk, the energy value of milk is influenced by the fat content. We all know that, because fat contains much higher energy than carbohydrates and the protein, and influence the energy value of milk. And camels, they have higher energy requirement for the production of milk than cattle. Camels are not selected for milk production. They are not dairy animals. They produce milk enough to support the offsprings, the calves. They're not milk producers. Some might argue and say no, but a camel that produces 5 liters a day compared to 50 liters a day for a cow is big difference. One thing missing in our consideration of metabolizable energy requirement is conceptus in nutrition. Conceptus in nutrition is very important. This fetus, a janine, rely on amino acids and the glucose. And if you look at the gestation period, the birth weight, comparing Holstein cow with Arabian camel, the birth weight is the same, but the gestation period is different. If you divide the birth weight over the gestation period, you get daily growth of 128 compared with 90. That means you require less energy per day in camel to support the fetus compared to cow. And we know that the efficiency by which energy is converted to fetus energy is the lowest in the animal. It is only 13% of the metabolizable dietary energy is converted to fetal energy. So this is something to consider. And when looking at and I would like to focus on nutrition. This is my area of expertise, and I'm sure that health and reproduction will be dealt with by other colleagues. So protein metabolism, which is so important in the camel. You look at the fate of protein consumed, the protein made up of true protein and non-protein nitrogenous compounds. True protein, part of it is degradable, part of it undegradable. Non-protein nitrogenous compound will be degraded to produce ammonia. At the end, you have microbial protein synthesized in the compartmental stomach, and you have a bypass or undegradable protein that resists degradation in the compartmental stomach, entering the small intestine. This is very important. This is very important. Some of the ammonia absorbed will go into the liver, converted into urea, and urea cycle and excreted. I know that urea recycling is more efficient in the camel, but you look at this one. You look at this one. And it is something being neglected by even scientists, researchers, and diet formulators, okay, and nutritionists. Only a small proportion, remember it, only a small proportion of the protein will be retained in the body, will be useful for the camel. It is only about 15% of the intake will be retained in the body, and about 85% will be excreted. It is the most wasteful nutrients in the system of the camel, the most wasteful. And of course itself, it is the most expensive because it comes from protein sources that are very expensive. So we need to consider that. How do we deal with that? We have to work out around providing probably, and that's what I use these days. I formulate the diets with a protected protein and a protected amino acid to bypass fermentation in the foregut and supply amino acids to the intestine, the amino acid absorbed, and the aim is to supply protein with amino acid profile as close and as similar as possible to the tissue to be synthesized. I've been saying this for 40 years. Since I was doing my PhD, as close and possible, similar to the tissue protein to be synthesized. And assuming that energy is available, then it will be incorporated within the animal's capacity to build. You cannot exceed the animal's capacity to build protein. So we can calculate, 2 minutes? We can calculate the protein requirements. You can look at this later. Calcium, and for milk, you can calculate all that. And today being mentioned about the camel population, I want you to remember that more than 88% of the camel population is in Africa. About 36 million, 36,608 in Africa. Very little in other countries. So this is important to consider. And for the model that I want to mention last, the model that I developed to work out the population of camels in the southern part of Morocco and the sustainable harvest rate, we're using all these, any model you do, the goodness of the model, as they say, the biostatisticians, depending on the reliability of the estimates entering the model. So these are the estimates, and these are estimates, probably Abu Abid would love this. And these are the estimates. It was calculated for the sustainable harvest in southern Morocco is about 3.9 of the population per year. You maintain a sustainable camel population. This is in Australia. We use the same model to work out the camel population in Australia, and that decline in the curve over there, then that's when they started shooting camels in 2012, 2014, and they killed about 150,000 camels. So that's the decline in the population. And this is for sustainable harvest rates for the Moroccan, South Morocco camel population. And I choose the figure 60,000. It may be less than actual figure, but this can be changed easily and worked out. So in conclusion, my friend, I have a minute. Thank you. You're very kind. Can't help it. In conclusion, in know-how, we have it. Gaps in our knowledge, we almost identified those gaps. So we need to work towards filling it. And the will to make changes and transform the industry, it is there. The institution, the Kassaba, the government, FOSBUKRA, the supporting agencies. And now we need to consider investments, the form of investments to develop the industry. I forgot to put a last slide to say thank you. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rafat. Beautiful presentation, very interesting data, and it raised lots of questions in my mind, because when someone present and tell me stories and facts, I will learn very little. But this presentation opened the door for so many questions. We open the floor for you for 5 minutes to ask any question, as long as Dr. Rafat Al-Jassim is with us. Any question from the floor? Come on, I have 10 of them. You will start. You first. Right. First line. Abu Abed. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Jassim, for this nice presentation. I like it very much, the model you presented to sustain a number of animals. And my question is, for example, for the case of the southern part of the country, is that we need to increase the number of animals. Is that what you hope to do?
Well,
is your program support any effort to estimate the effort to increase this number instead of keeping it stable? Yeah.
Well, in this model, we used fertility as 50%. This is relatively low. Experts in the field, they can tell you they can increase it, so and so. We calculated the harvest rate based on the parameters. We can increase it, lower it, and we can work around that. But the variables, it is, the model is very flexible. You just change very little, and you can see the changes in the curve. But because we worked sustainable, we wanted to sustain and calculated the harvest rate on that basis, population remained.
Thank you.
Another question? Yes, right there.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Rafat. So my question is, with changing climates and overgrazed pastures, is it interesting to increase numbers of camels in, to have a sustainable production in Morocco and in other countries?
Camels, like any other animals, they got to eat, to survive, and to produce. This is one of the gaps that I mentioned. We need to study the resources, the feed resources, availability, quality, quantity, seasonality, all these things. Then to match that with the requirements of the animals. I went once with the Kassaba, and they know their animals. They tell you what they eat, when they eat it, and what they prefer, the palatability of feeds. So we need to work closely with them to build up this database that we can input into our models and improve the model. If we don't provide enough from the paddock, from the pasture, then we have to provide it from other sources.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. You compare cows and camels. And I wonder, what about the methanol? Is it true that camels have less than half the methane of a cow, of a similar animal of the same body mass?
Yeah.
It's true?
You see, there are several factors involved over here. But regardless, if you have cows and camels on the same diet, camels produce less methane than cows, almost a half. Dittman did such a nice work. And before that, Gorwali here in Morocco did nice work as well. We looked at the methanogens, the archaeal population in the camel, and they have archaeal population, a diverse and all these things, but they not due to the physiological conditions. You know, the archaeal population is a slow-growing group of microorganisms. Due to the conditions in the physiological conditions and the dietary behavior of the camels eating food with anti-nutritional factors, mainly all these tannins and phenolic compounds, which inhibits or affect impact on cellulotic bacteria. But regardless, they produce less.
So this is great for climate change arguments.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
climate change argument is a nice...
There are wide range.
Let them forget about the camels and go to the United States, to China, to India, tell them to drop down their greenhouse gas emission. Then when they finish with them, they come to us.
We will do that.
They agree, I agree
Thank
with you, but
We have, unfortunately, that I apologize to all of you because of the time limit that we have. We run out of time. So if you have questions, you can interact with Dr. Al-Jassim after this session. Thank you so much, sir. So let me take this. Yes, the second speaker, Dr. Iyaso Sifo, is going to be telling us about the socio-economic aspects of camel farming in Africa. He worked in Ethiopia for almost 20 years, and he moved to Botswana, more than 30, total 30 academic years. He published large number of publications on different animal species, including the camel. Dr. Iyaso, thank you. You have 25 minutes, and then 5 minutes for questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Iyasu Seifu. As Professor Wael introduced, I came from Botswana and I'm working for Botswana University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Originally, I'm from Ethiopia. So in my presentation, if you see a number of examples and figures from East Africa and Southern Africa, you don't have to be surprised because that's where I've been working. Well, the topic of my presentation is socioeconomic aspects of camel farming in Africa, recent trends and emerging issues. So here is the outline of my presentation. I'm going to talk about the socioeconomic importance of camels in Africa, thus their contribution to the livelihoods of pastoralists and the social and cultural values of camels in Africa. And I will touch on the shifting trends and expansion of camel farming. Well, cattle-based agriculture in Africa is challenged by climate change and recurrent droughts. And in this regard, pastoralists in the drylands of Africa are vulnerable to the effect of climate change. So climate change is affecting millions of people in Africa. Well, reports indicate, about 70% of the land surface of Africa is characterized by arid and semi-arid lands and desert. So camels, owing to their unique physiological, anatomical, and behavioral adaptation, behavioral characteristics, they are well adapted to this hot and dry environment. And as a result, pastoralists in many African countries are, they have been shifting from their traditional cattle-based agriculture to camel farming nowadays. So the one-humped camel has been an integral part of the livelihoods of communities in Africa. And as you know, camels, they not only produce food, but also provide various services. So camel farming is expanding beyond its natural range. And this is mainly due to, as a strategy to cope up with the increasing trend in desertification and frequent droughts. So when we see the dromedary camel population and distribution, well, the recent report by the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, indicates that there are about 38.9 million camels in the world. Of these, 87% of the world camel population is found in Africa. And within Africa, the higher density of camel is found in East Africa, in the so-called IGAD member countries, which include Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Kenya. So nearly 19 million camels are found in East Africa, which is close to 50%. 50% of the world camel population is found in Africa. Well, the FAO report also indicates that Chad is the leading country in terms of camel population, with an estimated 9.4 million heads of camels, followed by Somalia, Sudan, and Kenya. Well, the role of camels in food production. Well, one of the important roles of camels is that food production, meaning they provide meat and milk. And the milk and meat of camels, apart from its nutritional value, has significant economic benefit because it generates substantial amount of income to the producers and also to all those involved, to the various actors involved in the value chain. Well, when we see milk production, camels are important dairy animals, and of course, milk production is the main reason for keeping camels in many African countries. Well, camels are reliable milk producers, especially during the dry season and drought years, where other animals hardly survive. So in camel milk contributes about 50% of the food intake in some African countries. Well, this figure here shows that Africa is the leading camel producer, supplying about 69.9% of the world camel milk, followed by Asia. And camel milk production has been growing steadily over the last 3 decades. So actually, camel milk production has increased by fourfold, starting from 1994 up to 2022. Well, this picture here shows the top 10 camel milk producing countries in the world. So 7 of these 10 countries are from Africa, and Kenya and Somalia are the 2 leading camel milk producing countries in the world. Well, camel milk makes substantial economic contribution to pastoralists in many African countries. For example, if you take in eastern part of Ethiopia, about 82% of the income of individual pastoral households is obtained from camel milk, and also 93% of income of camel milk traders is from camel milk. Similar figures are reported from other countries like Kenya. With regard to meat production, still Africa is a leading camel meat producer, and Africa is supplying 62% of the world's camel meat. And this figure here shows the top 10 camel meat producing countries in the world. Of these, 5 are from Africa, and Sudan is the leading camel meat producing country in the world. Well, among pastoral communities in Ethiopia, for example, camel milk is traded in butcher shops in various towns. Also, similarly in Kenya and other countries. So camel meat is traded either as a fresh carcass or after drying it as a biltong. Well, when we see the economic contribution of camel meat in Ethiopia, for example, and the national gross offtake value of camel meat is estimated towards 20 million Ethiopian birr, which translates to 380 million US dollar. Well, in addition to food production, camels provide various services to pastoral communities. So I think these are obvious, and most of you know about it. Transportation is one of the contributions of camels, probably next to milk production. Transportation is the most important service that is provided by camels. Well, these pictures here show camel caravan used to transport salt blocks from a salt mine in the Afar region in northeastern Ethiopia. So The camels are used to transport salt from the Danakil Depression, which is the lowest point in Africa. It's located 155 meters below sea level. So the camels are used to transport salt from this lowland area to the highlands of Ethiopia, 2,000 meters above sea level. Well, camels used to transport firewood, charcoal, water, crop residues, grains during harvest season. They are used to transport the whole house of pastoralists, nomadic pastoralists, and their belongings during their seasonal movement in search of feed and water for their animals. Well, an emerging trend nowadays is that camels are used for ecotourism in many countries, and camel owners use ecotourism to generate income. So this picture is showing tourists riding camels in Kenya, whereas these pictures here show tourists riding camels in Botswana, in a place called Tsabong Ecotourism Camel Park. Well, camels are, even though it's not that popular like the Middle East, in some countries like Sudan, camels are used for racing. Well, the other important use of camels is that they are used to generate income. Camels are source of income, and income is generated from camels, from sale of live animals, from sale of their products, milk and meat, from hiring camels as pack animal, and also an emerging new trend is that in Somalia, camels are leased, lactating camels are leased as a source of income. So this picture here shows a terminal camel market in Afar region in Ethiopia, another market in the Somali region. So camels from these areas, traders buy camels from here and export them to the Middle East and North Africa. Well, in Ethiopia, for example, the country is generating a substantial amount of money from export of camels to the Middle East and North Africa. Well, sale of camel products is another source of income, mainly sale of camel milk is an important source of income for the producers. So also pastoralists generate substantial amount of income from sale of camels, and in this regard, women are the main players who are involved in camel milk marketing. Well, leasing of camels, well, this is an emerging trend. I mean, it's a new trend practiced in Somalia. So what they do is the Somali pastoralists, they lease their lactating camels to milk processing companies, especially during the dry season. So this practice benefits both the milk producing processing companies and also to the pastoralists. During the lease period, the companies, processing companies, they are responsible for management of the camels, feeding, watering, and the benefit to the milk processing company is that they get constant supply of milk during the dry season, whereas the benefit to the pastoralists is twofold. For one thing, they get a monthly payment for leasing their camels, and also the most important benefit to the pastoralists is that they avoid loss and death of their animals during the dry season. Well, okay. Well, hiring of camels as a pack animal is also another source of income. Well, these are some of the uses of camels. They are used for plowing and cultivation. Camels are used as a source of power for various activities. Well, historically, camels were used in the military and police services, especially in southern African countries, such as Botswana, South Africa, and Namibia. Well, another important role of camels is their social and cultural uses. I mean, camels play an important role in the society, culture, and religion of camel-keeping communities. In this regard, camels are very important. They have important social value. For example, among the Somali community in Somalia, Eastern Ethiopia, and Northern Kenya, camels are used to for payment of dowry or bride price during marriage. They are used to settle conflicts between individuals or clans. So camels are paid as compensation. Camels are considered as a symbol of wealth, status, and prestige. A person with large herds of camel is considered rich, and such individuals are actually, they become leaders of the community. So it's not only in Somalia, but also in other parts of Africa, like, for example, in the Saharan, camels are a symbol of the Saharan identity and nomadic lifestyle. So the bottom line is one of the important roles of camels is their social and cultural significance. Well, nowadays, as I mentioned earlier, people in many countries, many African countries, who are traditional cattle herders are shifting from cattle herding to camel farming, mainly because of the ability of camels to cope up with the increasing, with climate change and increasing desertification.
I would ask you kindly to finish this slide.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the challenges of camel husbandry is obvious, it's indicated here. So I have highlighted here future development interventions required, but most of these are summarized in the conclusion and recommendation section. So just.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We will open the floor for this questions. That's okay. Sorry to rush you.
Okay.
Questions
Thank you.
questions from the floor. We will start in the back this time, if you don't mind. Right here. No one carrying or running the microphone? Oh, right there. Right here. This gentleman. Thank you. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
Thank you. I have an observation for two speech. It's the same information. It will be very short, very short.
That's fine.
Yes, very short.
Please proceed.
Two speech, they speak about how to develop a camel industry, a sustainable camel industry. They give us a lot of information, yes, very important, but they don't give us how many time we need to spend if we want to develop this industry, because supporters, Kasaba and administrations,
Yes, sir.
they ask every time, what's your planning if you want to present, planning time if you want to present
Thank you.
program?
Thank you. Let's see. Dr. Yasso, could you handle this question?
No, I didn't get.
He's asking that, he's asking you that you are pinpointing the problems and the issues and how can you apply what you are using. And Dr. Al-Jassim is here? No, he's not here. Because mainly that question could be answered by Dr. Al-Jassim. Is that okay? Yeah, he is going to be around if that's okay with you. Dr. Al-Jassim will answer it. Any other question for Dr. Al-Jassim? From the back. And we will come to you if you have time. Anyone from the back? No? This wonderful lady here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yasu. My question is about the leasing of camels. It's attracted my eyes. It's a good model. We already have this model for cows. Do you think that this model will be beneficial for farmers, for example? I know that for cows it was here in Morocco. We have Kopag, and it's really a nice example. Do you think because intensifying camels will really makes them indoors without walking and perhaps have a negative impact on productivity? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the questions. Yes, I believe that this is an important practice. By the way, it is a new trend and an emerging issue. It's being practiced in Somalia. So, like I mentioned, the benefit of leasing camels to the pastoralists is twofold. For one thing, they generate income, or they get payment during the lease period. And above all, the most important benefit to the camel owners is that they avoid loss and deaths of their animals during the dry season where there is shortage of feed. So basically, this is a coping mechanism, a resilience strategy to cope up with changing climate. So I think this model can be applied to other parts of Africa. So that's my belief.
Thank you, sir. We have a question from the other side of the hall. This side? No? Yes? And if we don't, we'll go back to the more active group. We are like competing with each other. Yes, sir. Young lady? Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yasu, the presentation about camels that are very important in the region of Morocco, southern of Morocco. The question is about the average model that you have.
Louder,
Can
sir.
you speak loud?
It's about the average model that you concluded from your study about social and economical study of camels in the African regions. So if you have a model that we can reproduce in the southern Moroccan region, and what about to emerge a middle class in the rural areas that live from camels? Thank you.
I didn't capture it.
Bro, can you elaborate? I didn't get his question. Yeah? Yeah, but I didn't understand what he's saying.
That's okay. Yeah, you can communicate with each other because of the time. Unfortunately, he couldn't hear you very well. So you can speak with him after the presentation. Thank you so much. Beautiful presentation. Thank you, sir. Apology for that. So I apologize for this inconsistency of the timing. I was instructed to speed up the process a little bit and cut 5 minutes. I felt, which is like I like to fail here, to give my colleagues more time to understand the question and respond to it. So our next speaker, the last speaker, Bibiana Villa, the biological and socio-economic importance of camelids in Argentina and other Andean regions. This is the first time, as Dr. Rifat Al-Jassim mentioned, that from South America, the New World Camelid, she is joining us, and I'm so excited to hear her. She is like a specialist in vacuna. Yeah, vacuna. That's a beautiful animal. Thank you. You have 20 minutes and 5 minutes for questions. Thank you. Rush through the slides, but the video we need to see. Yes. This one moves forward.
Okay. Okay.
The red one moves back.
It's okay. Okay. No, I'm happy with it. Okay, so thank you very much. I'm honored and very happy and thankful for all the people who invite me to be here. And I'm going to present the South American camelids, and those are the beautiful vicunias. So we know this history, and that's why we have camels in such separate parts of the world. They were originated in North America, and 3 million years ago, some of them went through Bering to Asia and Africa, and the other went down to South America. And I work with the vicuña in the Andes. So in South America, we have 4 species of South American camelids. 2 of them are wild, and 2 of them are domestic. The wild ones are the guanaco and the vicuña, and the domestic ones are the llamas and alpaca. And they all live in the Andean areas, in the high altitude areas, except the guanaco that used to live in the steppes of the Patagonia area in Argentina. We have in Argentina most of the guanacos and vicuña, that is 500,000 animals. Half of them live in Peru. And Bolivia has most of the llamas of the South America, and also Peru have nearly all the alpacas in South America. So these are the 4 species. And we are here also because of the International Year of Camelids. And the main reason why they decided to have this international year is because, next one. Yes. That the camelids constitute the main means of subsistence of millions of poor families that live in the most hostile ecosystems of the planet, that the comprehensive management of the products derived from camelids would promote the creation of sustainable jobs, and that these species are important elements of the cultural and spiritual identity of ancestral indigenous people, and those are llamas. And in the Andean Altiplano, the place I work with is about 4,000 meters above sea level. It's very high. And it has a pastoral system that is a long-lasting land use practice, breeding based on the breeding of South American camelids, llama in Argentina, and alpaca also in Peru and Bolivia, and that were domesticated 5,000 years ago by indigenous communities. The wild guanaco is the ancestor of the llama, while vicuñas hybridized with guanaco llama were the origin of alpacas. So this is the main income for at least 1 million pastoralists, and wild vicuñas, that are the smallest and the most slender of the South American camelids, graze freely because it's a wild animal between the livestock. So, IBES, that is the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, makes assessments. And one of the assessments that was the value assessment, that diverse value and valuation of nature, says
that the causes of global biodiversity crisis and the opportunities to address them are tightly linked to the way in which nature is valued in political and economic decisions at all levels, and that the transformative change needed to address the global biodiversity crisis relies on the shifting away from predominant values that currently overemphasize the short-term and individual material gains to nurturing sustainable aligned values across society. This is the conclusion of the assessment. So the values assessment, the INPE values assessment, have different values typologies. And in particular, the specific ones that are there has three kinds of valuation of nature. One is the instrumental value, the other one is the intrinsic value, and the third one is the relational value. The instrumental value refers to nature as a resource, as an asset. It's the one that you can use money to bring. And for example, in the case of the South American camelids, the main contribution to people they have is the fiber. And also, the domestic ones has meat. So the intrinsic value is the value of the nature itself. It's like the rights of the animals and all the biodiversity to exist. And also the relational value refers to the importance of the interactions between people and nature, and the interactions between people, even between generations, through nature. For example, sense of place, identity. So this is a place I work. It's in northwest Argentina, in the border with Bolivia and Chile. It's a very high altitude, and this is Santa Catalina, is the northern town in my country. And also in Santa Catalina, we have llama caravans, like dromedary caravans, but llama caravans that were extinct in 2018 in my eyes. So they are people from Bolivia who load their llamas and come to a fair in Argentina, and they exchange the fiber of the llamas to different food issues like flour, sugar, and pasta, for example. This is the different techniques they use. This has an ancestral knowledge, the way of loading and unloading, packing and unpacking the llamas. And they also decorate the animals that goes in the front. So this is a domestic South American camelid, that is the llama. The llama can be used as a transport animal for meat and also for the fiber. But this is the most beautiful South American camel I work with. This is the vicuña. It's a wild animal. It's like a fluffy gazelle. It's small, slender, and it was value and sustainable use since Incan time. And after the Spanish conquest, they killed the animals to take the fiber. So they were in the risk of extinction. So the recovery of this species is a great result for the conservation institutions, because the Andean countries signed a convention, that is the Vicuña Convention, that says in the Article 1 that the conservation of the vicuña provides an economic production alternative for the benefit of the Andean population. Also, CITES was very important. At the beginning, all the vicuña population was in Appendix 1. And the red list of the IUCN, at the beginning, the vicuña were vulnerable, and now with the recovered population is least concern. And also, a lot of regional, national, and provincial policies, and the commitment and the work of the indigenous people and local community was a great key to save the species. So now the vicuña is a very iconic animal in the Altiplano. You can see it in the mani. You can see it in the gloves of the president of Bolivia, and in several aspects. So with the recovered population, we implemented an old way of using the animals in Argentina. This was practiced before in Peru, that is called the chacu. It's a way of capture the animals, sharing the animals, and release back to nature. And I have a video, so I'm going to run fast. For the different moments, you have to build a corral and also decide. This is a joint activity between the local community and the scientists working there. We do this together. The herding, taking vicuñas into the corral, the handling, the sharing, the scientific sampling, and releasing back to nature, and the post-capture monitoring. So again, the three values, the instrumental, intrinsic, and relational value. Why these values are associated with a sustainable use? Because if we work only in the instrumental valuation of nature, we can make a wild animal into a commodity, and we don't want that for sustainability. And also, the intrinsic value means that we are thinking of, we are taking an animal from the wild and putting in a corral. So this makes us work extremely with animal welfare protocols. And also the relational value that helps a lot to bond the people with the animal in the field. So a recovered species, no? Right? Well, okay, I'm going. Up. Yes, okay, I'm going to finish now because I think it's nice to see a video just to show you a very quick image of the artisanal way of doing. This is, you can take the fiber to the textile companies, particularly the Italian ones, or you can try to do this in artisanal way, and we did it in the north of Argentina, and we measure all the hours needed to do each of the steps to make a vicuña shawl. Here you can have the clean fiber, the raw fiber, and the yarn. And because the animal has two colors, that is darker in the back and white in the forefront, you can see that the people, the artisanal people in the Puna can make very beautiful clothes. He's working in his loom, and this is the final garment, and this is the permission that says in the province that is not from poaching, that is from legal chacu fiber. So this is, the main cost was cleaning. Thank you very much, and I prefer you to see the video. So, okay? The video is coming. It has sound. ¿Se podrá apagar?
À la régie, on est prêt pour la vidéo avec le son, s'il vous plaît, merci.
Hace 20 años nosotros teníamos, qué sé yo, 10, 12 vicuñas y era una fiesta verlas porque habían prácticamente desaparecido. En los últimos años, en los últimos 10, 15 años, se empezó a notar un incremento y más próximamente en el último tiempo ya el incremento eso nos empezó a asustar porque nosotros en estas fincas tenemos ovejas y tenemos llamas y tenemos, como podrán ver, poco pasto, mucha menos agua y todo lo que significa por ahí las distancias, los tiempos, la incomunicación, la falta de infraestructura, hacía que las vicuñas sean una especie de enemigos para nosotros. hace 20 años. Nosotros teníamos, qué sé yo, 10, 12 vicuñas y era una fiesta verlas porque habían prácticamente desaparecido. En los últimos años, los últimos 10, 15 años, se empezó a notar un incremento y más próximamente, en el último tiempo, ya el incremento eso nos empezó a asustar porque nosotros en estas fincas tenemos ovejas y tenemos llamas y tenemos, como podrán ver, poco pasto, mucha menos agua y todo lo que significa por ahí las distancias, los tiempos, la incomunicación, la falta de infraestructura. Hacía que las vicuñas sean una especie de enemigos para nosotros, porque era un competidor directo del pasto y del agua con nuestra hacienda, ¿no? Y la vicuña era para nosotros un bicho feo, decíamos, que lo queríamos erradicar.
Yo hace muchos años que trabajo con vicuñas, me pasaba muchas horas con telescopios siguiendo los animales. Parte de la historia de la vicuña es una historia sumamente interesante porque la vicuña es uno de los pocos ejemplos de una especie del neotrópico que fue recuperada de la extinción al grado tal que hoy por hoy podemos pensar en volver a utilizarla. Ocupó un rol muy importante en la esfera mística, religiosa, de los pueblos indígenas y tenía un rol muy importante en la época prehispánica, incaica. Cuando llegaron los españoles, enseguida se dieron cuenta de la calidad de la fibra de la vicuña, que es una de las particularidades de este animal.
Terminamos. Bueno, bárbaro. Bueno, vamos a buscar las muestras.
Era una fibra que se obtenía a partir de un método de captura que se llamaba chacu. Consistía en gente caminando con sogas, arreando las vicuñas hasta un corral. Ahí la mayoría de las vicuñas se esquilaban y se volvían a liberar. Los españoles, en vez de esquilar las vicuñas, las mataban y exportaban los cueros a Europa. Y esa matanza de vicuñas permanente siguió hasta la época republicana y generó que en 1950 la vicuña estuviera en peligro de extinción real. Perú, Bolivia, Chile y Argentina establecieron un convenio internacional que fue fundamental para salvar a la vicuña de la extinción, donde se prohibía absolutamente la caza y el uso de las vicuñas. Y la vicuña se recuperó de la extinción y empezó a aumentar el número al grado tal que hoy podemos pensar en volver a hacer ese chacu prehispánico, sumado a técnicas que los científicos aportamos para que las vicuñas, digamos, pasen por toda esa situación sufriendo el menor estrés y mortalidad posible. Digamos, tendemos a que las vicuñas vuelvan de vuelta a la naturaleza con la fibra que quedó en la comunidad y con un montón de datos científicos que nosotros tomamos.
Hacemos un corralito con esta red, los chicos que están ahí la sostienen.
Es una especie muy, muy linda para estudiar desde muchos puntos de vista, tanto, o sea, por su condición biológica, silvestre, como por la relación que tiene con el humano, ¿no? O sea, que tiene un vínculo muy especial y desde hace muchos años.
Hace 4 años, y porque yo tenía cierto conocimiento de que había gente que hacía este trabajo, nos ponemos en contacto con Janina Arzamendia, en Jujuy, y el primer planteo fue eso: ¿cómo hacemos para sacarlas de nuestros campos? Y por supuesto nos llevamos en aquel momento el llamado de atención, el reto y un poco el enojo de Janina, porque tan conservacionista como es, no era la idea.
Nosotros creo que los convencimos de que la pueden utilizar sin tener necesidad de echarla y que pueden lograr convivir más o menos en armonía en el ambiente con la especie y bueno, que ambos saquen algún beneficio. La vicuña, la tolerancia en el ambiente y la gente su fibra. Uno de los objetivos principales que se plantea en el manejo, como es la conservación de la especie, es mantener el bienestar animal de las vicuñas durante esta situación y en el campo en general. Entonces, toda la infraestructura que tenemos armada ahora para la captura de la vicuña está todo en función de esto, de mantener el bienestar animal de la especie. Se arma una manga de captura, o que es un tipo de embudo de redes y postes de 2 metros de altura que finaliza en un corral, en donde ahí va a ir la gente caminando con sogas, cintas de colores, arreando las vicuñas. se van a levantar unas redes y van a quedar en el embudo y se van a empujar suavemente hacia el corral este.
Bueno, BICAM es un grupo de investigación que está principalmente formado por investigadores y becarios del CONICET. Y nuestro objetivo principal como grupo es realizar investigación científica tendiente al conocimiento, conservación de los ambientes andinos en sus aspectos naturales y culturales, especialmente en lo relativo con los camellos. Montamos a la captura como si fuera un gran experimento, donde nosotros podemos tomar datos que nos interesan y a su vez la gente se capacita en la técnica de captura y a su vez la fibra queda para la comunidad. Y en realidad el objetivo principal de nuestro proyecto de nuestro grupo de investigación es estrechar la relación entre lo que se llama el uso sustentable de la fauna silvestre con la conservación del ambiente y el desarrollo de las comunidades originarias en el altiplano. Nos basamos en asumir que el desarrollo local y la conservación ambiental no son opuestos y que apuntar a ambos no es una utopía, sino un desafío en el marco de la ciencia ambiental.
El corral lo hacemos de red, por ejemplo, para que las vicuñas avancen y vean y vean el paisaje y no tengan miedo al tener una pared. Pero una vez que ellas están ahí, vamos a bajar unas cortinas de lona para que ellas no intenten escaparse porque gastan mucha energía tratando de escapar. O sea, esa es una innovación que nosotros vamos a probar mañana. Y al corral se llega a través de un embudo de red que tiene postes de 2 metros de altura con kilómetros de red.
Estuvimos cuidando todo el tiempo de que sea todo de red, que no haya la menor cantidad de alambres posibles, que no quede nada para que ellas se lastimen, que no queden huecos para que se puedan sacar su cabeza, sacar sus patas, se puedan fracturar. Todas estas cosas pueden pasar en un manejo si uno lo hace en forma desprolija. Entonces tenemos que tratar de que sea lo más tranquilo posible. Para eso diseñamos ese corral así. Entonces, bueno, va a pasar al área de manipulación y se la va a esquilar, pero se la va a esquilar de manera parcial. Esto es, esquilar solo la fibra del lomo y de las grupas y mantener la fibra del cuello, del pecho, de las extremidades, porque esto es muy importante para la supervivencia posterior de la especie en el campo, sobre todo por problemas de termorregulación que puede tener después. Este caso, que es un proyecto de un estudio científico, la manipulación no es solo la esquila del animal, sino también la toma de datos científicos sobre este animal.
Ahora estoy llenando los capilares para hacer microhematocrito, para ver el nivel de deshidratación de los animales, y después estamos haciendo un frotis, para después hacer una tinción y se recuentan los tipos de glóbulos blancos que tienen. Todos estos parámetros juntos permiten decir si los animales estaban estresados al momento de la captura, que obviamente van a estar estresados, pero bueno, es importante saber qué nivel de estrés tienen.
Terminamos de realizar la actividad que implica el manejo de captura y esquila de la vicuña silvestre, y fue exitosa la actividad del arreo, de la captura de los animales en el corral, y también, o sea, post captura, los animales retornaron a su territorio, a su área de acción, así que bueno, estamos muy contentos porque estamos viendo que los animales se reagruparon. Vuelven los grupos familiares con el macho, con las hembras, cada uno está marcadito con sus collares y podemos diferenciarlos.
creo que la cooperativa, todos sus miembros, están en un momento en donde se quiere vivir en equilibrio también con las vicuñas. Y yo creo que así como me ha tocado a mí de tener que ceder en parte y aprender de la vicuña y del ICAM, se pueda contagiar al resto de la gente y que ya deje de ser el bicho malo que nos perjudica y sí poder ser una fuente más productiva, ¿no?
Poder combinar la conservación de una especie silvestre con el bienestar de la comunidad humana que vive con esa especie silvestre. Y poder ver que no son antagónicos el desarrollo económico de una comunidad con la conservación de la biodiversidad. Y justamente este es un proyecto que es un experimento perfecto para eso, para demostrar que uno puede conservar la biodiversidad y desarrollar económicamente una comunidad local y que estas dos cuestiones pueden ir de la mano, en este caso de una vicuña.
Amazing. Great job. Thank you so much. It's unfortunate that we have the time constraint and we are not going to entertain any questions this time. If you have questions, she's going to be around. Please interact with her. The last speaker is Dr. Dobengalo Coulibaly, Scaling Up Climate Resilient Camel Breeding Technologies in Mali. Can you hear me, sir? Dr. Coulibaly, he can hear me?
Bonjour.
Yes.
Bonjour.
Yeah. He can hear, right? Kindly speak so that we can verify your voice. Otherwise, we will, I'm just kidding. Speak, please. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
En français, je vais m'exprimer en français.
No, unfortunately, no. But I would like just to present you, and this is it. That's what I am doing. I'm kindly asking you to limit your presentation to 20 minutes. Starting now, you may proceed, sir. Thank you.
Alors, Monsieur Coulibaly, on vous entend et on vous écoute. Alors, vous avez 20 minutes pour votre intervention, s'il vous plaît.
D'accord, pas de problème.
C'est parfait.
Je vais partager mon fichier. Tu peux m'aider un tout petit peu? Allô?
Oui, on attend pour voir votre fichier.
C'est à quel niveau je vais partager la fenêtre? Allô? Vous m'entendez? Vous m'entendez?
Oui, on vous entend, on vous entend.
J'ai fait partager le fichier. Oui, je dois récupérer mon fichier maintenant.
Très bien. On va le partager d'ici, M. Coulibaly, mais on n'aura plus votre image. On n'aura que le fichier. Mais on aura votre voix. Ça vous va?
D'accord.
Très bien. C'est bon, nous avons votre fichier maintenant, M. Coulibaly. Et vous le voyez aussi. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Je vous entends.
Alors, vous pouvez commencer. C'est parti.
Je ne vois pas le fichier. OK. Il faut actionner le fichier. Premier diapo. OK. OK. Développement de l'élevage, de technologie d'élevage résilient au changement climatique au Mali. Allons-y. File le fichier. Suivant. Contexte. Il y a la vulnérabilité des systèmes d'élevage, il y a la dégradation des terres pastorales et la désertification, il y a des crises pastorales, crises sociales qui se développent, et accentuées de la pauvreté des éleveurs. Ensuite, les systèmes d'élevage sont restés extensifs avec une faible productivité, surtout l'absence d'organisation d'éleveurs pasteurs et surtout le faible accès aux services d'appui technique et de services et de crédit. Allons-y. Objectif, il s'agit de contribuer à l'autosuffisance alimentaire à travers l'amélioration des productions camélines. Il s'agit dans un premier temps de faire une situation d'actuel des élevages d'élevage, de mettre en échec les technologies générées en station et en milieu réel, et en même temps générer de nouvelles technologies, surtout renforcer la capacité des éleveurs comme objectif spécifique. Allez-y. Donc, comme méthode d'élevage, nous avons intervenu à deux niveaux. Au niveau du milieu réel, par des tests de démonstration des systèmes d'élevage, ensuite en milieu réel, par la mise en œuvre, en place de nouvelles technologies, le développement de nouvelles technologies. Comme vous le voyez au niveau de l'écran, il s'agit de diagnostic, l'adaptation des technologies de transformation et de complémentation du lait, et surtout l'utilisation de complémentaires dans les travaux agricoles. Nous avons mis en point différentes méthodes, la contribution de l'éleveur à comprendre, à faire la part de la contribution de l'élevage dans son revenu au niveau du revenu agricole. Nous avons fait des productions de fourrage de qualité sur les exploitations pour améliorer l'apport afin de renforcer la résilience de ces animaux au changement climatique. Alors, slide suivant. Vous voyez sur la carte, elle montre vraiment les zones d'intervention des actions. Il y a les régions du Nord, Gao, Tombouctou et Kidal, et aussi la zone de transition qui est la zone centre, qui est la région de montée dans le cercle de l'élevage, où c'est la nouvelle zone d'extension de l'élevage du dromadaire, surtout à travers la traction agricole. Merci, continuons. Et le développement de systèmes semi-intensifs au niveau des zones périurbaines autour de la ville de Bamako. Slide suivant. Slide suivant. OK. Tout ce processus a été basé dans un premier temps sur la sensibilisation et des acteurs, des groupes bénéficiaires de pasteurs, des autorités politiques ainsi que administratives, les communautés locales, et ceci s'est fait à travers la création de plateformes pour mettre l'ensemble des acteurs autour des questions de recherche. Dans ce contexte, nous avons créé 3 plateformes de production de lait et une plateforme de viande et 2 plateformes des utilisateurs du dromadaire comme animal de trait pour améliorer l'utilisation de cet animal dans le contexte animal. Suivant, slide suivante. Allez-y. OK. Donc, ceci a comme objectif, dans un premier temps, de former des formateurs qui vont assurer la formation des acteurs, des groupes cibles à la base, à travers des plateformes et aussi à travers les différents bassins créés au niveau des recherches. Ça, c'est pour les permettre de comprendre mieux les objectifs de la recherche, mieux renforcer leur capacité, surtout au développement des plateformes et leur mise à la recherche, et surtout dans les approches, l'utilisation des approches de DFORT, qui est une approche participative qui fait étendre au niveau de la zone CORAF, de l'Afrique de l'Ouest et du Centre. Donc, ceci nous permet quand même d'impliquer l'ensemble de ces acteurs dans le système de développement de l'élevage du dromadaire dans les différentes zones. Allons-y. Slide suivant. Allez-y. Donc, ce qui nous a permis d'expliquer à ces acteurs les différents chaînons de l'élevage, de la chaîne de valeur. Qu'est-ce qu'une chaîne de valeur? Dans le cas espèce de l'élevage, il s'agit de partir de l'étable ou du parc pour arriver au niveau de l'assiette du consommateur. En voyant les différents maillons, les flèches suivantes. Ce qui nous a amené à identifier les différentes catégories d'acteurs que nous voyons. Vous voyez depuis les intrants jusqu'aux consommateurs et chacun a des rôles beaucoup plus précis. Allons-y, je ne vois pas très bien. Vous avez les différentes catégories d'acteurs en bas. Vous avez les fournisseurs, les producteurs, les groupes, les grossistes et aussi les consommateurs. Les consommateurs sont surtout les ménages, les restaurants et surtout les hôtels. Dans le cas, parce que le produit fait un bon usage au niveau des hôtels aujourd'hui au Mali. Merci. À la flèche suivante. Voilà comment fonctionne, allez-y, comment fonctionne le système. Vous avez les acteurs directs, vous avez les acteurs de soutien comme les sporteurs, certains disent, leur interrelation et surtout les performances, leur efficacité dans l'intervention. Alors, pour côté, nous avons les aspects de gouvernance. Parce que tout ça, ça doit se faire dans un cadre de gouvernance collégiale et partagée. Ensuite, on a surtout le renforcement des capacités des acteurs. Ceci permet de favoriser les échanges entre les acteurs, développer une vision commune, surtout ça c'est très important. Il faut que les gens aient une vision commune avec des stratégies de mise en œuvre communes. Ceci facilitera la création des liens d'affaires améliorés, surtout les questions d'affaires améliorées, stimuler la création de nouvelles activités, ce qui est très important pour le développement des acteurs. La suivante. OK. Ça, c'est un peu comment être le comportement des acteurs pour être invités. Il faut qu'ils aient un esprit, un intérêt commun, surtout avoir l'idée d'être des acteurs qui ont des groupes gagnant-gagnant, win-win, comme on le dit en anglais. Merci. À la prochaine slash. Bon, on est parti maintenant pour le diagnostic. Il faut aller faire la situation vraiment actuelle. Comment nous avons procédé, c'est des enquêtes qu'on a effectuées au niveau des différentes zones d'élevage du dromadaire, avec des guides d'entretien, des questionnaires qui ont été adressés à 228 ménages à travers les différentes régions d'élevage. Allons-y. C'est le suivant. Ensuite, nous sommes passés à la mise en place des différentes technologies générées surtout en santé pour la prophylaxie médicale du dromadaire. Donc, c'est un dispositif qu'on a mis en place à travers l'objet de référence, c'était le troupeau. Avec différents outils, on a un groupe, un traitement expérimental et un traitement de la pratique paysanne de contrôle. Et nous a permis de suivre ces animaux pendant 2 ans. Slide suivant. Donc, dans cette zone, comme je le disais tantôt, le dromadaire est en passe de se substituer au peu de labour dans la zone d'extension qui est le centre, surtout dans les travaux agricoles. Connaissant la force de ce thermal, ils ont tendance à l'utiliser de façon abusive. Pour un peu remédier à ça, aller vers une utilisation plus durable de ce thermal, nous avons conduit ces tests de démonstration en milieu réel et les traitements comportent les différentes opérations agricoles. Et les différents paramètres ont été collectés sur le temps de travail, la température, les battements cardiaques, pour comparer les forces fournies par ces une paire de bœufs et un dromadaire utilisés pour ces différents travaux. C'est une étude comparative qu'on a eu à mener. Allons-y. Ensuite, le lait, la transformation du lait à un moment récent était un tabou. C'était l'économie du don. Parce que on se disait que le lait ne se vend pas. Avec l'ouverture du marché aujourd'hui, la tendance est à aller à la transformation de ce lait. Ce qui nous a amené à faire un inventaire des procédés traditionnels et pour apporter les améliorations nécessaires pour aller vers des produits beaucoup plus classiques ouvert au marché moderne. Slide suivant, vous avez quelques éléments. Voici comment une thèse a été conduite sur la préparation, la fabrication du yaourt à base de dromadaire par l'utilisation des plantes locales, les extraits de plantes locales. Allons-y, slide suivant.
Monsieur Koulibaly, il vous reste 5 minutes.
Ah, d'accord. Il faut aller rapidement au résultat. Ça, c'est la supplémentation. Allez-y au résultat. Résultat de discussion. Allez-y, c'est pas arrivé.
C'est ça.
Oui. Bon, par rapport à la situation des référents, on se rend compte que tous les éleveurs enquêtés sont à 100% des hommes. Ça relève de la coutume au Mali. Un chef de famille, c'est toujours l'homme qui est au niveau de la famille. Et de même, on voit que l'âge, il y a moins d'éleveurs. C'est le même facteur qui se sent au niveau de l'âge. Il y a moins de jeunes qui sont responsables de ces animaux au niveau des différentes régions. Alors, si, et vraiment, on a essayé de voir également la part du lait, les objectifs de l'élevage. Il y a le lait, la traction animale et les produits qui procurent le plus de revenus à l'éleveur. Il y a le lait et la traction animale, comme je le disais, vous avez un peu les pourcentages. Alors, il y a les principales activités, la part du dromadaire dans les revenus. Ça, c'est un cheptel, la composition d'un cheptel. Nous voyons de façon générale, la moyenne va de 22 à 73%. À Mopti, on n'a que des animaux tels que deux têtes qui sont généralement des mâles pour utiliser pour la traction animale. Allons-y, la suivante. Donc, on a distingué quand même un système pastoral, un système agro-pastoral, un système intensif, comme je le disais un moment, et surtout un système intégré, une stratégie d'adaptation, surtout des éleveurs au changement climatique. Donc, le mode, c'est la transhumance et la mobilité à longue ou moyenne distance. Mais allons-y, très rapidement. Ça, c'est un peu les résultats de la prophylaxie que nous avons, la vaccination contre les maladies obligatoires et le traitement contre les parasites internes et externes, suivant un chronogramme annuel. Merci. Suivant. Ça, c'est un peu le temps de travail. On voit que le dromadaire a utilisé plus de temps que le dromadaire. Et voici les quantités de lait que les laitiers ont transformé. Et ça varie en fonction de la saison et le prix producteur jusqu'aux différents produits et le prix producteur jusqu'au lait transformé. Allons-y. La suivante. Ça, c'est un peu les résultats de la complémentation. Et voici les productions moyennes que nous avons obtenues en première année. Sur la suivante. Ça, c'est en deuxième année. On voit qu'il y a une différence très significative entre les niveaux de production. Slide suivant. Ce qui nous a permis aussi de générer des gains de poids. On voit quand même au niveau de Tombouctou, il y a une perte de poids au niveau du lot de contrôle. Allons-y. Ça, c'est les revenus qu'on a pu tirer de cet élevage à travers la production de lait. On voit que la marge est plus importante sur le lot 1. Il en a de même pour la deuxième année. Allons-y. Slide suivant. Allons-y. OK. Ça, c'est un peu la production de biomasse. Ça, c'est un intérêt surtout pour les jeunes diplômés qui n'ont pas qui à la recherche de travail. Ils peuvent produire avec ces quantités de fourrage qu'ils produisent. Ils peuvent se faire des chiffres d'affaires très importants. Cela suivant sur la question économique de cette production de fourrage. Vous voyez, c'est très intéressant, surtout pour les jeunes diplômés. C'est une affaire qui génère, et surtout souvent les cultures, la semence de bracaria beaucoup plus chère que les autres. Voici à peu près les effectifs qu'on a utilisés pour la complémentation des jeunes dromadaires, parce que ça, c'est un autre problème, l'embouche des animaux et le retard des femelles à entrer à la reproduction. Il faut les conditionner. C'est ce qui nous a permis de faire ce test. Slide suivant. Exactement, c'est un peu les gains de poids qu'on a obtenus. On voit que le lot quand même a réalisé beaucoup plus de gains de poids par rapport au premier lot qui était utilisé le tuto de graines de coton. Allons-y. Slide suivant. Ça, c'est un peu le même travail a été fait en partenariat avec les agriculteurs. Ça, c'est la contribution de l'élevage au niveau des revenus. De l'élevage, le commerce, l'élevage, le commerce et aussi les cultures. C'est la contribution de chaque activité au niveau de l'élevage. Et vous avez la contribution des différentes espèces élevées au niveau des ménages. Ça, c'est vraiment de façon spécifique le dromadaire qui contribue aux revenus des ménages. Et les différents sous-produits issus du dromadaire. Et voilà à peu près le renforcement des capacités Vous voyez, au cours de ce projet, on a formé pas mal de ressources, surtout les femmes. C'est un dispositif qui était beaucoup plus inclusif, ce genre. S'il vous plaît, allez-y. C'est un peu toujours la suite de ceci. En termes de conclusion, nous avons quand même réalisé beaucoup d'activités. Et merci pour votre attention.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Thank you.
Monsieur Koulibaly. Monsieur Koulibaly.
Oui.
On voudrait vous remercier infiniment pour votre présentation, une si riche présentation.
Merci.
Et un grand bonjour du Maroc à tous nos amis maliens. Très bonne journée.
Merci. Merci. Bon bonjour à toute la participation.
Merci beaucoup. Voilà, mesdames, messieurs, nous avons fini avec notre ami Koulibaly, le grand professeur Koulibaly du Bangolo du Mali. A little break, a coffee break of 20 minutes, and we're back here for this international conference on Camelids. Une pause café et on revient 20 minutes, s'il vous plaît. À tout de suite.
نعطيكم
جوج.
ها شكرا
المرجو من الحضور التحاق بالقاعة. شكرا. La régie, on est prêt? C'est bon? Well, we're starting now the last part of this magnificent journey with you, audience, and with our scientists and professors. And now we're starting the oral presentation. Starting first, Mr. Al-Hajj Yusuf. He will be accompanied by Mr. Hamadi Sidi, Sidati Sadbou, Al-Bukhari, Ali Muhammad Salam, Jamali Munawar, and Wuld Ahmed Muhammad. And now we're talking about economic analysis of raw camel milk production and marketing in the peripheries of the Nouakchott city in Mauritania.
السلام عليكم. شكرا سيد رئيس الجلسة. Merci beaucoup l'organisateur de cette manifestation d'envergure d'avoir m'associé à cet événement par l'invitation. Permettez-moi de partager avec vous les résultats de notre travail sur l'analyse socio-économique de lait de Camel cru, produit et commercialisé dans les périphériques de la ville de Nouakchott en Mauritanie. Donc, juste l'عنوان بالعربية. Donc, cette présentation s'articule autour des 4 parties classiques. Une introduction générale pour mettre un peu le sujet dans son contexte, et puis le matériel et les méthodes. Et on va voir les principaux résultats de ce travail et recommandations, des conclusions et quelques recommandations. Les dromadaires constituent une composante très importante dans l'économie nationale d'une manière générale et aussi particulièrement une composante très importante pour la population pastorale. Donc, selon les statistiques de la FAO, la Mauritanie contient une population plus d'1,5 million de têtes réparties bien sûr dans toutes les régions du pays. Donc une importance numérique très remarquable. Donc, malgré cette importance numérique, il y a peu d'études et des recherches qui ont été faites, qui sont disponibles sur cette espèce stratégique pour les pays. Donc, effectivement, pour identifier les différentes opportunités de développement et aussi les contraintes de cette espèce. Donc, les Mauritaniens sont des grands consommateurs du lait cru, des préférences le lait de Camel. Ils ont une préférence particulière pour le lait de lait de Camel. Donc, ces dernières années, il y a une forte expansion ou développement des systèmes périurbains autour de la ville, des grandes villes, surtout dans la capitale à Nouakchott. Donc, ce qui nous a poussé un peu à répondre à des points, essentiellement la rentabilité économique de ce système et aussi la qualité de ces produits autour de la ville. Donc, dans cette partie-là, donc, on va traiter essentiellement l'aspect économique. Donc, on a posé la question pourquoi faire une étude socio-économique de ce système périurbain. Donc, c'est pour comprendre mieux la situation de cet élevage au niveau des systèmes périurbains, aussi pour effectivement quantifier l'impact réel de cet élevage. Et aussi, les résultats de cette étude socio-économique, c'est important ou nécessaire pour toutes les orientations stratégiques. Donc, l'objectif essentiel était d'évaluer l'impact socio-économique de l'élevage périurbain autour de la ville de Nouakchott. Donc, pour la méthodologie, donc, cette étude a concerné des enquêtes, des questionnaires auprès des éleveurs. Donc, un questionnaire qui regroupe toutes les informations nécessaires à les données sociodémographiques, les données techniques et les données économiques. Donc, pendant la période du mois d'avril et le mois de mai de 2024. Donc, chez 60 éleveurs autour de la ville de Nouakchott. Donc, deux races ont été concernées par cette étude, c'est la race Laftout et la race Rghebi. Donc, les axes concernés par l'étude sont les axes périphériques de la ville. Donc, ce sont les axes sur lesquels il se trouvent les élevages. Donc, il y a deux axes externes et des axes internes, c'est-à-dire où se trouvent à l'intérieur de la ville. Donc, pour étudier les aspects économiques, donc, on était obligé d'identifier toutes les sources de dépenses chez les éleveurs et aussi les sources de revenus pour faire un peu le bilan économique et voir un peu, on peut dans ces cas mesurer la viabilité, si vous voulez, économique de cette activité. Donc, les différentes sources de dépenses chez les éleveurs sont identifiées essentiellement par l'alimentation, puis la main-d'œuvre et les abreuvements des animaux, les soins vétérinaires et peut-être autres dépenses. Pour la somme de tous ces éléments, ils donnent le coût total chez l'éleveur. Pour mesurer le revenu, donc le revenu essentiellement vient de la vente du lait et aussi la vente des animaux de différentes catégories d'âge. Donc le revenu total, c'est la somme de revenus ici de lait plus les revenus ici des ventes des animaux. Donc la différence peut nous donner une idée sur la marge brute chez l'éleveur. Donc les données collectées de l'enquête ont été analysées statistiquement par logiciel SPSS version 27.0. Donc, pour aller vers les principaux résultats, donc, les paramètres socio-démographiques, donc les 77% des éleveurs, ils sont âgés de plus de 50 ans. Donc, 65% à peu près des éleveurs, ils n'ont jamais reçu une éducation formelle. Donc, ces deux paramètres-là, ils posent vraiment peut-être des problèmes pour effectivement l'adoption de certaines technologies pour améliorer la productivité chez les chamels. Donc, alors que 53% des éleveurs pratiquent cette activité depuis plus de 20 ans, ce qui a donné plus d'expérience, d'expertise des éleveurs pour gérer mieux les troupeaux. Donc, les éleveurs enquêtés, ils ne sont pas organisés sous forme des associations ou des regroupements socio-professionnels. Les éleveurs gèrent des familles de moins de 4 individus, avec une variation de 1 à 8 individus, avec une taille de troupeau de 44 têtes. OK. Donc, c'est la répartition des éleveurs, les troupeaux au niveau des axes routiers sur lesquels on a fait l'étude. Donc, les deux axes externes qui regroupent le plus des effectifs et le plus des éleveurs. Donc, avec un total à peu près de 2620 chamels détenus par les éleveurs étudiés. Donc, les races étudiées ou rencontrées chez les éleveurs, ils sont essentiellement les deux races qui existent traditionnellement en Mauritanie. C'est l'Aftout avec un pourcentage de 72% et l'Ergueibi avec 28%. Donc, les femelles étudiées, ils sont à 75% de multipares et 25% primipare, avec les différents stades de lactation, première lactation jusqu'à 3 lactations et plus, avec une production laitière moyenne de 5 litres par jour. Donc, la durée de lactation a été à peu près une année, 12 mois, avec les plusieurs stades de lactation, début, milieu à 50% et fin de lactation à 25%. Donc, on a étudié aussi le devenir des femelles après lactation chez les éleveurs. Donc, on a trouvé qu'à peu près 22% qui gardent essentiellement les femelles, soit les retournent leur troupeau aux zones pastorales, ou soit les gardent au niveau des zones peri-urbaines. Alors que 37% des éleveurs conduisent directement les femelles avec leurs chamelons à l'abattoir directement après la fin de lactation. Donc, ils ne sont pas de vrais éleveurs, ils sont plutôt des commerçants qui profitent de la lactation des chamelles. Leurs troupeaux se renouvellent chaque année, pratiquement. Donc, cette catégorie-là constitue un véritable problème pour les ressources ou les potentiels génétiques parce qu'ils ils font des pratiques qui sont très dangereuses pour la préservation. Peut-être les chamelles, ou certainement, ils sont de très bonnes chamelles et ils les conduisent à l'abattoir. Donc, c'est une érosion génétique. C'est une destruction du potentiel génétique. Alors que à peu près 40%, ils pratiquent la réforme. Donc, ils vendent les mauvaises, généralement les mauvaises ou les vieilles chamelles, et ils gardent les bonnes chamelles, soit dans les troupeaux peri-urbains, ou ils retournent au troupeau peri-urbain, plutôt pastoral. Donc, après tous les calculs des dépenses, donc on a remarqué que l'alimentation constitue la source de dépenses la plus lourde chez les éleveurs, suivie par la charge de main-d'œuvre et puis l'abreuvement des animaux. Alors que tout ce qui est santé ne coûte pas, les éleveurs ne dépensent pas grand-chose pour la santé des animaux. Effectivement, pour la part des revenus, donc 65% des revenus, c'est issu de la vente du lait, alors que la vente des animaux contribue à 35% dans les revenus total des éleveurs. Donc, on a tracé un peu aussi la courbe de la marge brute chez les éleveurs. Donc, il y a une variation, il y a une fluctuation de revenus, de marge brute chez les éleveurs, où c'est tout à fait normal. Donc, lorsqu'on regarde, donc, il y a certains éleveurs qui ont réalisé des bénéfices, c'est à peu près 10% des éleveurs qui ont réalisé des bénéfices négatifs. C'est peut-être sont de nouveaux éleveurs ou peut-être ils ont des problèmes de gestion qui n'est pas permis de générer une marge brute positive. Donc, dans l'ensemble, les éleveurs réalisent une marge brute positive estimée à $9,000 par éleveur par an. Et une marge brute de $445 par femelle lactante par an. Donc, ce qui démontre un peu une viabilité économique de cette activité. Il y a d'autres aussi paramètres ou indicateurs qu'on peut aussi nous permettre de mieux estimer l'impact de cet élevage. C'est le nombre des animaux vendus par les éleveurs enquêtés qui a été estimé à 648 animaux plutôt par an, avec une moyenne de 11 animaux par éleveur par an. Donc, si on dispose le recensement de tous les éleveurs, donc les multiplier par la moyenne et multiplié par les prix, donc on peut trouver vraiment une idée sur la contribution de cette espèce dans l'économie nationale. Et aussi, un autre indicateur très important, c'est la création d'emplois. Donc, les éleveurs enquêtés, ils ont déclaré 1132 employés avec une moyenne de 2,2 employés par éleveur. Et c'est la même chose aussi si on a le recensement de tous les éleveurs au moins dans ce système. Donc, on peut avoir une idée sur le nombre d'emplois créés et effectivement sur le nombre, sur la somme dépensée pour payer cette main-d'œuvre. On peut avoir une idée sur la contribution de cette espèce dans l'économie nationale. Et pour les conclusions, donc, il était très important de prendre cette approche socio-économique dans l'étude de l'impact économique des dromadaires dans l'économie des éleveurs. Donc, aussi, notre étude a montré que l'alimentation, elle coûte 73% du coût total, suivi par 20% pour la main-d'œuvre. Donc, 65% des revenus de l'éleveur est issu de la vente du lait, alors que 35% issu de la vente des animaux. Donc, avec une valeur moyenne par éleveur par an et une valeur par femelle lactante très positive. Donc, pour comprendre un peu et généraliser cette étude, donc il faut vraiment... cette étude a été très importante, donc il faut faire c'était très importante pour faire une perspective d'élever des races spécifiques selon des conditions adéquates et aussi pour établir des stratégies ou des programmes d'amélioration génétique chez cette espèce. Parce que les deux races étudiées ils sont parfois mélangées ou chez les éleveurs. Dans ces cas, on ne peut pas parler vraiment des races, mais plutôt des populations ou d'une mosaïque. Donc aussi, on a remarqué que les éleveurs, ils ont besoin d'une supervision, encadrement. Il faut vraiment les structures techniques du ministère de l'élevage encadrent les éleveurs pour assurer un bon transfert technologique. Aussi, organiser les éleveurs pour pouvoir défendre leurs intérêts. Et aussi, bâtir un programme d'amélioration génétique, surtout qui interdit l'abattage ou l'abattage des femelles laitières de haut potentiel, comme elle fait 37%, comme il est pratiqué par 37% des éleveurs, ils sont des commerçants, ce qui constitue peut-être une sélection négative. Donc, voilà, je remercie aussi l'équipe qui a contribué à cette étude. Donc, toutes les structures qui ont contribué à cette étude. Et donc aussi, voilà quelques articles qui sont liés au sujet, publiés récemment. Et je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Hadj Youssef, pour votre présentation si riche en informations. Bravo la Mauritanie, merci beaucoup. Vous pouvez applaudir encore une fois, mesdames et messieurs. Nos amis de Mauritanie, merci infiniment. Thank you very much. Now we're moving, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about a peri-urban camel husbandry associated with tourism activity in southeastern Morocco. And I'm inviting on stage Mr. Ibn al-Bashir Mustafa for a study made by Ben Amr Houria, Al-Buhali Bashir, and Nutfia Younes. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Mustafa Ibn Bashir, animal scientist at INRA, National Institute for Agricultural Research, Regional Center of El Rashidia. And I am happy to share with you some information about what we can call a peri-urban camel breeding system, the case of the southern east of Morocco. So, as we know all, in Morocco, the camel livestock plays an important role at social and economic levels, especially for population from Saharan and pre-Saharan zone. As we saw this morning, the national herds of Morocco accounts about 183,000 heads, mainly found in the south regions. But there are parts that we can find in other regions, like the east regions, Rahamna, Qal'at Saragna, and in Dar'ata Filalt. In this region, Dar'ata Filalt, we have, of course, a certain vocation of animal production on the pasture, with mainly two farming systems, the extensive and the intensive. In this table, we can see the importance of each species. Camel species, even if accounts less than 14,000 heads, but its role is remain interesting and important for local population. As I said, the camel farming system is based mainly on the extensive system according to a nomadic mode. But in these last years, there are a certain tendency of nomads to settle closely to the urban center, what led to a growing interest for a nomadic system linked with tourism activity. This, what you call peri-urban camel farming system, that we can find all along the touristic route, for example, between El Rashidia and the Taos zone or Merzouga zone. In this route, we can find a lot of pound for in which we can buy camel milk it's sold for especially for tourists in this zone. The objective or the aim of this study is to describe in which conditions this milk or this meat sold for tourists is produced and commercialized. To achieve this objective, we had carried out a study on 50 farms and a survey on 15 milk stall and 10 butchers that selling camel meat. We analyzed the physiochemical and bacteriological quality of the milk in our laboratory. Results. Firstly, the socioeconomic status of farmers, the human. All studied farmers were men, and more than half of them were under 50 years old. That's good for the future of the system. These farmers live either in permanent houses or in houses and tents, a sort of admixture between sedentary and nomadic, and or live only in tents. About 30% of them is totally nomad. But less than 13% practice or exclusively practice camel breeding, because most of them associate camel with other species, especially with cattle, sheep, and goats, or practice other economic activities like agriculture, trade, and tourism. A sort of adaptation. In terms of breeding system, as I said, there are two main systems, the extensive and the semi-intensive one, that these two systems are present in equal weight. The semi-system, the extensive system is based on pasture, but the semi-intensive system, in addition to pasture, is based on the food resource coming from agriculture, besides, of course, the purchasing of livestock feed in the market. But in both systems, in extensive and in semi-intensive system, breeders are semi-sedentary, nomadic, or sedentary. But the majority of this farm of them are practicing camel for meat, because in a sort of suckling tip. Of course, the average camel herd size is about 25 heads, and the large breeder represents only more than 7%. What about reproduction management? As we saw this morning, the reproductive dominated is the free one, in which males are realized at all the time with females. But in some cases, we can find a certain management, a certain choice for some males, and some we discard the others. Conception rate, as we saw this morning, in general in camels is low, but the problem is that this parameters is vary hugely. In our case, they vary from 20 to 80% according to climatic condition. In this table, some other parameters summarized just for to give you an idea. In terms of feeding management, as I said, the system is extensive to semi-intensive, in which feeding is based mainly on the pasture, but we supplemented the animals, and the period of supplementation can last between 3 months in a rainy year to 9 to 12 months during the years. Health, I am not the specialist, but we find some health problem that can cause losses in camel, especially some disease like scabies, ringworm, camel pox, and trypanosomiasis. In terms of milk production, at the firm, because the study was done at the farm level and in the salt pond level, at the farm, at the level of the farm, milk yield vary depending on the season from 2 to 10 liters per she camel per day. And this milk normally is for self-consumption or for calves, but in some cases, about 21 pounds for persons, we can sell a certain quantity of milk. And this milk is sold in what we can call a sal pound level, milk sal pound. In each milk is kept in a refrigerator or even in freezer and sold either raw, what means that the consumer can drink milk just after milked from the she camel udder, but we can drink it also after stored in refrigerator. The milk is sold at on average of 40 to 15 dirham per liter, but it can vary from 13 to 100 dirham per liter according to demand. For chemical characteristic of the studied samples, generally we obtained satisfactory results in terms of composition, dry matter, proteins, fat, lactose, and other. But we noted that there are a huge variation in terms between sal pounds, because there are certain high variability in terms of chemical composition. In terms of microbiological characteristic, we assisted using what we call total aerobic mesophilic flora, and we obtained a certain level of contamination, of course. In terms of animal or live animal and meat sal, the type of animal slaughtered is of course human, but also we find this mal is both at 4,000 to 10,000 dirham or Moroccan dirham. Consumers give more importance for the age of the animal. Think obvious, the freshness of the meat, and then other factors or other criteria like the gender or the sex of animal, its origin, etc. The demand for camel meat has seen some growth in recent years, especially in winter period. And normally the camel meat is available on the market all the year with a certain price. This price is not for nowadays, it's for the year in which the study was done in 91, 92. So the conclusions. The camel breeding in the study area, of course, plays an important socio-economical role for local population. In recent years, this activity has been associated with tourism throughout the use of camels in some tourist activities and in producing milk for sal. And besides the extensive livestock system that is based essentially on the pasture, there are a semi-intensive system which combine grazing and input or from agriculture and purchased feed. And camel herds are generally raised according a semi-sedentary or nomadic mode. Milk production varies greatly between farmers and between animals. Physical and chemical parameters, as I said, are satisfactory in general and close to the value that we know about this matter. Microbiological quality showed a significant level of contamination, as I said, which is probably due to hygienic condition in which the milk are milked and manipulated and stored. For the sale of camel meat, butchers obtain supply throughout the year from the local market to satisfy a certain growing demand for this product. In terms of recommendation, we can say that this, what we call peri-urban camel breeding, should be more studied. In addition to zootechnical aspects, we have to explore other issues like the social and economical aspects. And this new breeding system that we can find in other urban centers is a sort of camel breeding is a question for us, is a sort of camel breeding adaptation to climate and economic context, or simply is a tendency that is economically profitable for stockholders. And I would like to thank all the team and all persons that contribute in this study, and thank you for your answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibn al-Bashir Mustafa, for this presentation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's take you to another country. We were in Mauritania, Morocco, and now let's go to Tunisia to talk about a socio-economic evaluation of dairy camel breeding. And I will call, ladies and gentlemen, a young lady, Mrs. Marwa Brahmi, Mufida Atigi, Pierre Guimarnet, and Mohamed Hamadi. I'm going to give you my microphone so you can see me on stage.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will present myself. Thank you. I'm Brahmi Marwa, PhD student working on the Livestock and Wildlife Laboratory in Ardland Institute from Tunisia. Today, I will be presenting my work on socio-economic evaluation of dairy camel breeding in Tunisia. As we know, traditionally, dromedaries are raised in extensive system across the rangeland and desert region, where natural vegetation thrives under extremely harsh climate conditions. In the actual context of climate change and desertification, which are likely to expand the area that are unsuitable for dairy farming, the adaptation of this species and its diverse application make it as a valuable alternative and the preferred option for addressing these pressing challenges. So camels reveal a particular interest because they may prosper in areas where other forms of livestock farming become difficult, leading to high costs and the marginalization of agricultural activities. Consequently, camels have become indispensable for communities in this region that rely on them for their economic and social survival. Like in many countries, camel breeding holds a significant place in the agricultural landscape of Tunisia, particularly in the arid and semi-arid region where traditional livestock farming may be less viable. Dairy camels farming has recently been introduced in southern Tunisia. This sector has generated considerable interest, leading to establishment of several dairy camel breeding units in peri-urban area and oases to meet the growing demand for the camel milk. The sustainability of these farms depends on their economic profitability, yet limited scientific studies that address this context key factors necessary for their effective management and sector development. So with the change of the breeding vocation, several constraints arise, and the question about the profitability of this system are frequent, but without clear answer. Thus, this work aimed to carry out a technico-economic assessment for small dairy camels farms in Tunisia, which represents the first step to characterize and evaluate the technical and economic component of this breeding. To reach this aim, a survey was established based on a direct question to each farmer to address the objective and answer the key question regarding dairy camels farming. We employ a systemic approach that views the system as a whole, accounting for its complexity and intersect dynamics. 38 breeders from southern Tunisia were asked during this survey. The study was carried out from the 1st April to the 2nd June 23. The survey area was selected from 4 southern Tunisian governorates known for their camel breeding. And the 5 visited to breeders were organized by the IRA, the Arid Land Institute of Medellin, and the Regional Direction of Office and of Livestock and Pasture, the Tunisian organizing focusing on this kind of activities. So 3 main components was the survey focused on 3 main components. The social component, which include the identification and information about the breeder. The management component take into consideration the breeding management, the milking management, the milking routine, and the hygiene practice, and the economic component, including the production costs. So for the economic parameters, we focused on the revenues, which are defined as the economic input of the farm, the operating expenses or activity expenses that are linked to the operation of the company, and the gross margin, which is the difference between the gross product and the operating expenses of a given farm. Statistical analysis was carried on with the software of SAS using the GLM procedure. The correlation between economic variable and factors were also tested. The chi-square test was used to compare the different frequencies and the distribution of the survey variable. Results were presented as mean with a standard deviation at a level of statistical significance of 5%. Starting with the breeding profile for the result, our results showed that 55% of the farmer didn't extend the primary level of study, with only 30% of them who reached the university level. But the major part of these farmers are considering the breeding as their principal activity, and 39% of them represent a large-scale breeding. For the management, the studied sample was mainly represented by a semi-intensive system. Milking is exclusively made by men, but the breeder pay a very special attention for the health monitoring with 82%. 74 of them have their own male to rat, and 74 of the breeder have a good camels with a good body score. For the milking management, mainly all the breeders are practicing hand milking, but all of them are ready to start the intensification and to try the machine milking. The stimulation is in the most case done by the calf, and only for 2% done by the machine. For the economic parameters, statistical analysis show that the region on the breeding system have no significant effect on the income cost and margin of the breeder, which can be explained by the fact that the condition and the breeding management are comparable between breeders surveyed. Alimentation represents the main source of expenses. Then it's the drinking charge. The lowest one is the transport charge, because all the breeding kept the animal near their house. These results are comparative to them announced by Oulad Ahmed, which highlight the importance of diversifying feed resource. The use of local byproducts could reduce the economic burden associated with feed. This table shows the correlation between the management and the economic parameters. The gross margin is positively correlated with selling calf and milk, but it's bigger for the sale of milk, which show the importance of selling it to guarantee the profitability and the sustainability of this breeding. As a conclusion, certainly in dairy camel breeding system, understanding the technical aspect is fundamental. Nevertheless, understanding the socioeconomic aspect remains essential in order to characterize this breeding, strengthen their advantage, and overcome their challenge to guarantee their sustainability. The results show that feed occupied the highest percentage of expenses comparing to other expenses. Furthermore, the correlation between the income and the gross margin with the sale of the milk is more important than the correlation between the sale of the calf. And these results mark an important initial step toward a comprehensive study enabling the establishment of the typology of camel farm in Tunisia. This classification will be useful for the development of the dairy camel sector. As a recommendation, a socioeconomic study of dairy camels farming would make it possible to understand the challenge, the opportunity linked to this sector, and to propose solutions to maximize its economic, social, and environmental impacts. Feed costs represent the largest financial burden for camel breeder. The leveraging locally available and often underutilized resource can significantly reduce expenses, promote sustainability, and improve profitability, optimizing the utilization, the use of local feed resource, including agriculture byproduct, is essential for enhancing the viability of dairy camel farming. The adoption of machine milking in dairy camel farming is essential for improving efficiency and productivity. This technology significantly reduces the labor requirement of hand milking, enhances milk hygiene, and allows farmers to scale up their operation. By implementing machine milking system, farm can optimize time management, thereby reinforcing the economic sustainability of camel dairy farming. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I will say it in Tunisian, Aishik. That was great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. A big applause for this young ladies and gentlemen. Marwa, thank you very much. Shukran. Now let's get back to Morocco and talking about camel in the southern Moroccan area, management practices and achieved performance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Abdul Hafid Kelly, Mohammed Bonsif. Thank you. Mohammed Bonsif. Thank you, Sir Mohammed. مرحبا بك.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. Good evening, everyone. My topic or our topic is about camel in the south part of Morocco, which will talk about management practices and achieved performances. The plan we adopted for this talk is about, we'll have very short introduction and then the methodology, and after the methodology we'll talk about the main result of this several years of research, and then we come out with some conclusion and recommendation. Sorry. So in introduction, we know that we heard several times this morning that number of herds of camel in this country is about 180,000 heads. Most of these heads are located in the three regions of the Sahara, Laayoune, Dakhla, and Gelmim, and that represent 80%. Why? Because why this concentration of camels? Concentration. Sorry about that. I'm not very used to technology. How this works? Okay. Okay, I said 180,000, 80% of it are in the three regions of the Sahara. Because what? Because this, in the Sahara, 80% of the land is rangeland. And camel is an animal adapted to rangeland and Saharan environment. And also, this the total area of these three regions is about 340,000 square kilometers. And 80% of that is rangeland. You can imagine how huge are rangeland in this part of the area. Just in Dakhla, we have 13 million hectares of rangeland. Add to that Laayoune, Saqi al-Hamra, and Smara, and Boujdour. In the past, the population of the Sahara are organized in tribe, and they live just like transhumant and nomad around the Sahara, and sometimes beyond the Sahara, they go to the northern part of the country. Looking always for what? For best pasture and watering system. The people of the Sahara, they always, they are called, you know, the people of son of the cloud, because they track the cloud to generate that rain that generated by the cloud, expecting that there will be a very good pasture and water for animals. So nomadic system is getting it's reduced with time because of the drought, mainly that of 2003, when people, for example, the data that we have for Gelmim Wadnoun, where the breeders that settled forever, they don't move anymore, represent only 58%, and only 42% are nomad. This means what? That we are now going for what? For not an extensive, very extensive system, but semi-intensive or intensive system. Number of evolution of number of camels in Morocco. In early 70s, the number of camels in Morocco was about 220,000, but this drops to about 30,000 in 1980 because of drought, mainly that of 1981. Where, for example, for sheep, we lost about 6 million head in one year or in one semester. After that, there was a progressive improvement of the number of head until it reached, actually now it's reached about 100,000 head. Methodology adopted in this was that we synthesized the data of several studies that we have supervised, myself and my colleague in the region, by student of National School of Agriculture in Meknes in their thesis and dissertation. And also the data that we have collected from research and development studies that we carried out for the benefit of some regional administration of agriculture, mainly that of Dakhla Wadnoun and that of Dakhla, Waddab, and Gelmim Wadnoun. And this. approach adopted was kind of survey that we try to reach every single breeder, but we have adopted a random stratified sampling that include small, middle, and very high breeder as far as number of head are concerned. These data were analyzed to determine what? To determine feeding management, which is range use, supplementation, and watering, and also estimation of performances of parameters such as reproduction, growth, and milk production. Also, we described the route of transhumance and conflict that they sometimes we have if there is, for example, use of private properties. Also, we looked at animal health, but not as a specialist like a veterinarian, but also just to find out what are the main diseases that affect the production. Type of dromedaries in the Sahara. This is Dr. Amiri talked about that this morning. And we have three types mainly in the Sahara. Marmori, which is the best one as far as meat and milk production are concerned, but it represents only 36%. And we have Guernsey type, which is good-looking animal, but its production as far as milk and meat are concerned are lower than that of Guernsey, of Marmori type. And we have the third one, which is the Khouari, which is a product of crossbreeding between these two types, Guernsey and Marmori. The main result of this study, structure of herd. Why we study the structure of herds? Because we need to know what kind of category represent on the herd. And we can see here in this table that adult female represent the most high value with 50.71%. This in Dakhla region in a study that we carried out longer ago, almost 21 years now in Dakhla. But this data that we have only at hand. At Galmi Mwadnoun, we have the recent data in 2021, and that category of female representatives vary from sedentary and transhumant breeders. For example, for transhumant, this represent about 76%, and sedentary 67%. Which means what? It means that we have here a breeding systems, which we call in French anthroponiseur, which is only used to produce young for meat production. You know that any camel herd, it's not, raised alone. There is always a mixture of species. This is what? Because if there is any risk, we can share the risk between these different species. And what we found in Deir al-Ayoun in 2019 to 2019, that small ruminant are dominant. It represents more than 80%, and only camel represents 17%. Of what? Of a number of camel in Al-Ayoun, Saqi al-Hamra, about 105,000 head of camels in this region. And there is also, for example, here in this picture, we have goats, and we have the local goat of Dakhla, which called Al-Hazma. And this breed is now under a very intensive system of selection. This selection is followed by our friend Sidi Mohammed Tarouzi. He is here among us. And with also the rangeland that we have seen this morning, either in Argentina or what Doctor in Australia showed this morning, are different. This is the best range that we found in this country, and this rangeland is between Tarudant and Tata, which is more protected than that of the Sahara, where we have almost bare ground. Feeding management that we got from all these studies is that rangeland are used year-round by 100% of the breeders, which means what? That rangeland represent the most source of feeding for camels or for breeders. Then You know, since rangeland are degraded, this not covered all the requirement, nutritional need of the camel, that there is a supplementation. Supplementation is made by mostly in the farmer that we, and breeders that we, you know, we touch by three feeds, barley, the dry beet pulp, and wheat bran. And we found that barley is used by 36% of the breeder that we touch. This is why, because barley is subsidized. Donc il y a une subvention pour l'achat de l'orge. Puis, therefore, there is the apple and wheat bran, which is used by a very low percentage of according to their availability in the market. If we see this supplementation is made start from early March and then to September. And this period coincides with what? With the high requirement of animal, high nutrition requirement, which is late gestation and early lactation. And people, they use this, you know, this kind of supplementation. But if we go beyond what is physical, if we go to chemical analysis of this supplementation, we found that what? That this supplementation is mainly energetic. And there is big deficiency, huge of deficiency in protein and mineral. And for that reason, we have very, very low performances of the animal. Camel route used by Dakhla, during the transhumance, we have three movements of the year. Winter movement, spring movement, and fall and summer movement. Each movement is governed by what? Is governed by this availability of food, of grass, and water. But in Gelmim Wadnoun, as I said, 42% of people are no longer nomad. They settle forever. And 42% are nomad, and 58% are still, you know, they don't move forever. So what this means, that we shift from a very extensive system to a semi-intensive system. And for example, for Gelmim Wadnoun, they go to all the region of the country, except the Gharb and the North. Transhumance route, as we can see in this map, the transhumance route, for example, for Dakhla, it goes from the north to the south and from the west to the east, looking always for what? For best pasture and drinking water. Same thing was noticed also in Laayoune Saqiya al-Hamra, movement of the herd from north to south and from east to east, always for looking for best site where grass is available and water is available. As for example, in Dakhla, people, they let their camel goes freely from, for example, Dakhla, Bir Anzaran to Smara. They go alone. When they find out that there is no water, they come back. And this was told to me by one of my friends, Maili Sidi Mohammed Tarouji, who is here among us. Animal unit or zootechnic unit. Why use this parameter? Because you know what we found in the literature, that in the literature we found that they give the nutritional requirement for animals, either sheep, goat, or cows, or beef. They give that without, you know, giving attention to what? To different categories on the herd. They think the young suckling, for example, camel or adult camel, as the same as far as nutritional requirement are required. So what we do here, we have for each category in the herd, we have its need for nutritional requirement food. For example, in the overall animal unit or zootechnic unit for transhumant breeder is about 1.87, compared to that of sedentary breeder, which is 1.61. What we found in sheep and goat in the country is about 1.6 to 1.7. It's not donc, it's not, there is no big difference between camels and small ruminant. The nutritional requirement that we found is 2,373 for transhumant, and only 2,049 forage unit a year for sedentary breeders. What we can find, I found that some value that I will not mention here, which go beyond this value, which means that we overcome and we overcome the real need of the animal. Reproductive performances, as we have seen that in the nutrition of herd is mainly based on rangeland. Rangeland are degraded, drought, 3 years of drought, 3 consecutive years of drought right now. So that what we found is just recently in 2021 at Gelmi Wadnoun, that fertility is very low, 69% against 73% for the transhumant. This morning, one of the speakers talked about 50% that we have. This is mean what? That if we have 100 she camel, after after the reproductive event, what happened? Only 73 or 69, good 70 are pregnant. The rest are only raised for nothing. They don't produce anything. So we need to increase this and to prove this at least to 90%. Prophylicity, which is a genetic parameter, it's 100%. It has an impact of nutrition, but mainly it's genetic parameter. That's what is only 100%. Mortality rate is very high, 14% for sedentaries against 10% for transhumant. This is was meant what? If in any 100 young camel born, we lost each year 14 to 10%, which is a huge loss. Sex ratio is very high, 12 to 8%, and the standard value which should be 40. Now we have more than adult male than we should have in a herd. Interval between two successive births is between 20 months. It's acceptable. You can accept this value against 22 to 30 months in transhumant herd. Monthly distribution of the bird, we can see that the bird start as early as June, and then it continue until March. But the maximum bird occurs between October and February, which means what? Because this is the best season of growth of the grass growth and availability of vegetation. Milk production is very low. What we found is vary between 4 to 10 liters a day by female. But we need to add to that the part that was suckled by the young, because as we know in this area, female cannot let milk go without her baby beside her starts suckling. And the overall production by lactation doesn't go beyond 1,800 to 2,000 liters by lactation, which is 8 to 12 months. Meat production is very low. For example, the growth, daily rate of growth in rangeland doesn't go beyond 110 grams a day, 94 to 110 grams a day. But in fattening unit, it goes to 400 grams. Weight at slaughter, no. Sorry, what? Come back, how come back? Weight at slaughter, it's about 57 to 67%. And this is compared to that of beef cattle like Charolais or Limousin or other species. Main disease that we heard about during the survey are mainly juvenile diarrhea syndrome, and then parasitic disease like ringworm, scabies, and ticks, and respiratory disease. As we can see here, there is a sample of parasite. Conclusion: the production and reproduction and performances of camel remain modest to very low, despite the particular attention that was given to this species in the Moroccan national program like Morocco Green Plant, le Plan Maroc Vert, and also ongoing Generation Green. Productivity of camel meat and milk is very low because it depends on what? Depends on pastoral or rangeland production, which itself depend on what? Depend on climatic condition, mainly precipitation. Also, there is a very lack of good management. You have a mismanagement of rangeland. People of the Sahara, they told us that if there is any good rainfall in this region, and if we let the grass grow until it reach, for example, seed production or recharge of disons les réserves to the roots. Sorry about jumping from French to English. If they let grass finish their growth cycle, they can be used for 3 consecutive years without any problem. But the problem is, as long as grass appear at the surface of the soil, there it is grazed mainly by sheep, because sheep graze very low. So if we have a good management, we can reduce what? We can reduce the cost of supplementation. Any development of camel production and productivity can be accompanied, if not preceded, by a good development of rangeland, good development and improvement of rangeland. We didn't hear this morning about rangeland or production of rangeland or production of rangeland. Mainly, small ruminant and camel in this region, use most of its need from rangeland, mainly if the production is very high. So also we need a very good management, and to achieve this, we need to implement as soon as possible the law of 113.13, which regulates, the transhumance and all this problem of intensification of camel milk and meat cannot be achieved through extensive system. So that we need to shift for what? For a semi-intensive to intensive system. And according to our, modest experience, more than 10 years of research with students and with region, we come out with some kind of idea and suggestion that can be, tested in experimental station or at small scale. And then if we have and we expect to have a very good result, then it can be extrapolated, to rural area. But within that, we need to do what we call the farmer school, l'école au champ. The farmer school to bring the farmer and to bring the farmer, and to show them at any stage what we reach, in this kind of program, and that they can be convinced and they can, apply or put into practice what they learn from experimental station. My talk reached to its end. I thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mohamed Monsef. Thank you very much. Appreciate your rich presentation. Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we reached the last oral presentation, and we move into Europe, talking about domestic camels in Europe, an historical overview and their uses. A study made by Carlos Iglesias Pastrana, Francisco Javier Navas González, María de Rosario Freno Vaquero, y Juan Vicente Delgado Bermejo, and of course, presented from Elena Ciani, Italia. Buonasera, Elena.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so actually this is a presentation that was intended to be given by Carlos Pastrana, who is recently took his PhD title at the University of Cordoba in Spain, but he unfortunately could not be here because he's currently working on a Saudi project on camels. So I'm going to give the presentation. I hope you will understand if I'm not so expert, but I don't know how to move. Yeah, the green one, but. Oh. Okay. So actually, this is a presentation to give you a very quick overview going into the past. Here in this conference, we are mainly focused on the future, but I think we have also to have a look at the past. And if we talk about Europe, that is even more relevant because, you know, getting a view to the past can give us some information on what is also occurring in the present. So very quickly, if we look at the Low Roman Empire period, you have in this map some representation of the archaeological sites where camel findings have been found. And you see they are quite well spread all over Europe. They were actually used mainly for public games, official imperial mail, draft activities, military purposes, and actually were very poorly used for milk and meat production. So they were mainly also, they were considered as a symbol of richness and social status. And you see here, for example, this silver denarius from Rome that is featuring this Nabatean king kneeling with a camel, so kneeling in a sign of respect. If we move in terms of time to the Middle Ages, then things quickly changed. And we see that the spread of camels in Europe become more rare, and actually they start to be used also as food producing. Just to give you some images of the areas where camels keep being present along the centuries is mainly in the area, in the Spanish area known as Al-Andalus. And then you have here some picture of very beautiful artifacts with representation of camels. And the place where camels were continuously present along centuries, it's for sure in Spain, in the Canary Islands. And you have here some representation of the more recent use of camels for transportation of goods, transportation of peoples. But I would love to emphasize the pictures that you see on the far right over there, emphasizing the bond, the closeness of the bond with humans. That is a specific trait that we found everywhere where camels are reared. In the modern area, the presence of camels became more and more rare. We can find them mainly in the more eastern fringe of Europe. You have some elements of findings from Hungary or from, if I can move it, from Romania, where they are also attested during the last centuries. Another example is in Austria. We have Pamela here who can give us more information about this. Is very interesting findings of a wool skeleton, probably dating from the 17th century, related with the Ottoman-Habsburg War. And the Habsburg have been playing a role in keeping dromedaries in Europe. Although on a different context as exotic and display animals. For example, we know that Emperor Rudolf II was having animals, camels, in his park in Prague Castle in Czech Republic. And he also commissioned some paintings to artists at that time. Also, we have this kind of representation of bringing camels from Morocco to Spain as a sign of symbol of peacekeeping. And what happened in the modern era actually is that camelids became quickly exotic, perceived as exotic animals, as actually they are in most of the European countries also today. Sorry, how to go back. And the only place, again, where camels still today are present in a continuous way and in a significant way is actually the Canary Island. There is some studies that try to understand why the original presence of camels in Europe cannot become a common asset, and some elements like ecological, demographic, and sociocultural elements have been mentioned as responsible for not spreading these species in Europe. But in the Canarian Islands, they had a really significant role in the local development in the last century. And we can say that today the Canarian camel is the only European indigenous breed. Although it's not fully exploited as it could be, it's mainly used for tourism activities. It's also a small population, and being a small population, it can be considered as an endangered population. So it's considered as at risk of extinction, and colleagues from University of Cordoba, they try to give more visibility and valorization to this population by working in the sense of creating, including Canarian camels into the 100% indigenous breed label that is used as a recognition label in Spain. And also they recently did some genetic diversity studies to get more insight into the risk status of this population. Talking about perception, because we realize that perception is really relevant in terms of how we behave with facing new things, and we can say that camels are somehow new for Europe. But you can see here the perception in Europe is very heterogeneous. It can go from curious to wary to scary to concerned. And we think that giving such historical perspective and awareness may also help people to get closer to these animals, to facilitate opening new business activities, so new room for dromedaries and camels exploitation. You have an example here from northern Spain, from Cantabria, where there is this company using camels for touristic activities, but linking them to natural habitats conservation, so for this kind of green tourism, and it's very success story. And similarly, success example can be mentioned as what concerns dairy production, in this case for northern France. It's a breeding farm having about 100 camels and successfully selling dairy products. And similarly to what happened in the Netherlands with the camel dairy farm from Smiths. Mentioning Netherlands also allow me here to pause. There's no, sorry, there was no something missing here. But mentioning the need to think at the European level about these species as a livestock species. There are some examples of countries where the domestication status of this species is somehow neglected, and this can have consequences in terms of fully exploiting them or even keeping them as livestock animals. Sorry. Okay. So we talk about perception. Also, we would love to give you numbers of camels in Europe. We can't. We try to make a survey with different country representatives because there are registry for each country for camelids, but actually it was not easy at all to get figures, to get numbers, but at least we try to give you a perception of the relevance, although it's a niche, for sure, issue of camels in European. With this map, you can see the farms that we have been contacting and getting in touch with in different European countries. So just to give a perception of this phenomenon. And with this, I just thank you.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille.
I stay on time.
You're on time. You did great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the last presentation of this journey. It was an honor and pleasure hosting this wonderful journey, sharing knowledge from all parts of the world. Thank you very much. Shukran. Grazie mille. Muchas gracias. 2 more days for you to learn a lot. Mr. Faddal, thank you very much for the invitation. And the whole team, you did great. This is a great event. Thank you very much. You're in the International Conference on Camelid. This is Laayoune. Welcome to Morocco. So please, before you go, let you know that tomorrow we're starting at 9 a.m. So be on time, please. There's a lot to learn tomorrow. Thank you. Good night. غدا إن شاء الله ما تسعود كل شيء يكون هنا. شكرا بزاف. صبحوا على خير.